Hard basketball and thuggish players are not the same thing. The league's best defensive players are often considered dirty players, but there is a thin red line: dirty or just plain a thug. You decide. Bill Laimbeer is widely regarded as one of the dirtiest players in NBA history. Throughout his career, Laimbeer gained a reputation for his physical and aggressive style of play, often using dirty tactics to gain an advantage over his opponents. Laimbeer also tended to use hard fouls and cheap shots to intimidate the opposition. He was a big man, standing at 6'11" and weighing 260 pounds, and he was not afraid to use his size and strength to his advantage. He pushed and shoved his opponents, and he was known for his hard screens that would often leave his opponents reeling. Laimbeer also had a penchant for flopping, a tactic that involves exaggerating contact with an opponent to draw a foul. It proved particularly effective for Laimbeer, as he was often able to draw fouls on his opponents without actually making contact with them. Laimbeer would often use his elbows to clear space or intimidate his opponents, and he was not afraid to use them to inflict pain on his opponents either. This tactic often resulted in injuries and altercations on court. Perhaps one of the most infamous incidents involving Laimbeer was his involvement in the physical and heated rivalry between the Detroit Pistons and the Chicago Bulls in the late 1980s. Laimbeer and his Pistons teammates, known as the Bad Boys, were famous for their physical and aggressive style of play, which often led to altercations on the court. Laimbeer was a key player in this rivalry, and he was often at the center of many of the altercations that occurred between the two teams. Laimbeer was also known for his unsportsmanlike behavior off the court. He was often seen trash-talking his opponents and engaging in other forms of physical and psychological warfare. Ron Artest, also known as Meta World Peace, was a highly controversial player in the NBA. He was aggressive and unpredictable both on and off the court. Artest tended to engage in physical altercations with his opponents. He was known for his aggressive and sometimes violent behavior on the court, and had a history of getting into fights with other players. One of the most infamous incidents involving Artest occurred in 2004, when he was involved in a brawl with fans during a game between the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons. The incident, which came to be known as the Malice at the Palace, resulted in multiple suspensions and fines for Artest and other players involved in the altercation. Artest was also infamous for his dirty tactics on the court. He was known for his hard fouls and his tendency to play dirty. He often used his size and strength to push and shove his opponents, and he used his elbows or knees to deliver cheap shots. Artest also lost his temper and got himself ejected from games. Off the court, Artest was synonymous with controversy. He had a string of legal and disciplinary issues, including a suspension for violating the NBA's drug policy and an arrest for domestic violence. Bruce Bowen had an aggressive and physical style of play that often drew criticism and controversy from fans, players, and coaches alike. His tendency to use his feet to kick or trip his opponents was famous. He was known for his signature move, the Bowen kick, in which he would stick his leg out in an attempt to trip his opponent as they drove to the basket. He was often accused of intentionally injuring his opponents with these moves, and several players, including Steve Nash, have spoken out against his tactics. Bowen was also known for his physical and aggressive play on the court. He was a lockdown defender who often used his strength and physicality to get under his opponent's skin. He used his hands or body to push or shove his opponents, and he was known for his ability to frustrate even the best players in the league. Bowen got away with his dirty tactics much of the time. He was a master of subtle fouls, and his illegal moves frequently went unnoticed by the referees. Rasheed Wallace was a highly talented and skilled NBA player known for his ability to score, rebound, and play tough defense. However, throughout his career, he was also widely regarded as one of the dirtiest players in the league. He engaged in physical altercations and had a history of technical fouls and ejections. Wallace consistently argued with referees and received technical fouls. His emotional outbursts on the court were legendary, and his tendency to complain about calls that did not go his way was second to none. He holds the NBA record for most technical fouls in a single season. Dennis Rodman was a highly talented and successful NBA player. Rodman was specifically known for his exceptional rebounding abilities, defensive skills, and intensity on the court. But he was also widely regarded as one of the dirtiest players the league had ever seen. He engaged in physical altercations, committed hard fouls, and engaged in trash talk all the time. He was also notorious for his physical and dirty play on defense, often resorting to grabbing, pushing, and pulling to gain an advantage over his opponents. Rodman was also famous for his trash talk and his tendency to provoke his opponents. He was a master of mind games and would often try to get under his opponent's skin by talking trash and engaging in verbal sparring. Rodman was also a master of drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line. He would often exaggerate contact and try to sell fouls to the referees, leading to accusations of flopping and acting. Latrell Sprewell was best known for his impressive scoring and defensive abilities, but he was as dirty as they come. Sprewell tended to engage in physical altercations and commit flagrant fouls. He was notoriously dirty on defense, often resorting to grabbing, pushing, and pulling to gain an advantage over his opponents. Sprewell's most infamous moment on the court came during a game in 1997 when he choked his coach, PJ Carlesimo, during a practice session. This incident led to a lengthy suspension and tarnished Sprewell's reputation in the league. The 1984 NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers was one of the most intense and physical series in NBA history. During Game 4 of the series, a now infamous incident occurred that has come to be known as the McHale clothesline. The incident occurred in the fourth quarter of Game 4, with the Lakers leading by a slim margin. Celtics forward Kevin McHale was defending Lakers forward Kurt Rambis on a fast break when he delivered a hard foul that sent Rambis crashing to the floor. The foul was a clothesline-style grab of Rambis's neck and shoulders. The foul sparked a melee between the two teams, with players from both sides rushing to defend their teammates and confront their opponents.
That was the beginning of it all as far as the Lakers were concerned, and now here is Kevin McHale's side of the story, and then Pat Riley.
The referees had their hands full trying to separate the players and restore order to the court. The incident resulted in McHale being ejected from the game and later being suspended for one game. The McHale clothesline became one of the most memorable moments in NBA history, not only because of the severity of the foul, but also because of the impact it had on the series. Ultimately, the line between hard play and dirty play comes down to a matter of intention and context. A hard foul in the heat of the moment may not be intentional or malicious, while a deliberate act to injure or harm another player is always unacceptable. So if you look at the incidents we've covered, are the players dirty or are they simply thuggish? Again, you be the judge. We'll catch you ringside or in the next video.